I like my studio. Yeah, I'm still in my sister-in-law's room for editing while I'm on vacation. So let's get on with this show. Hey everybody, and welcome the hell back. So this week I'm finally getting to a video I've wanted to do for a few weeks now, which is Marinashutup, and why she thinks Trump supporters are bad people. So let's just cut the intro short and let's just get into this shitstorm of a video, because it's probably already going to be pretty long as it is.
If you're familiar with me or this channel in the slightest, then you're probably aware of how I feel about Trump supporters.
Yeah, we know we basically got a phobia for everything and we hate black people, so...
But for those of you who might not be, here you go.
Here we go!
So if you're supporting a candidate who is working to take away rights from, people that you know, I don't understand how you can expect marginalized people to not be upset about it and to not feel like their friends and family who are voting against their own rights are not, betraying them in some way.
Well, first off, I would like them to point out exactly what rights they think they're going to lose and have a civil discussion about it. And also, Trump's been in office for about 1.5 years, and none of the groups you have mentioned have lost any rights whatsoever.
So us saying that racism exists and is a problem, and calling out that racism by educating others, led to you electing a racist?
Actually, your constant false accusations of racism towards Donald Trump and everybody that supports him led us to electing somebody that you believe is racist, despite having no evidence to prove your theory.
All of the other conservatives in Congress who support Trump seem to only really think of Americans as people who were exactly like them.
Get some!
Fuck our politicians. Fuck Trump supporters. Fuck you all.
Oh, you wanna fuck us all?
I've never had a Spanish chick before. Ole!
In response to the moments when I have admittedly lost my cool, or whatever cool I started out with in the first place, I consistently receive responses from people, many conservative, but some not, saying, it's a difference of opinion. Voting a certain way or having a specific political stance doesn't make you a bad person.
You should try listening to those people, considering they are smarter and apparently a lot more tolerant than you.
Alright, can we block the person who's fat shaming? So the question I want to explore today is, can you separate politics from morality? Is that even possible?
Well, for those of us to accept differing opinions, no matter what our personal political stance is, yes, that is possible.
Here's an example. Say two people both believe on a conceptual level that all people deserve equality. However, the differences in their political stances stem from a fundamental disagreement on how equality should be accomplished. The first person, a conservative, believes that in order to achieve equality, we must treat every single person the same way, no matter what. This is regardless of a person's race, gender, sexual orientation, educational level, family background, etc.
Well, on a basic level, without any context to what you mean by etc. and everything like that, yes, that is how it should be done. Equality of opportunity is something we can all achieve. Equality of outcome depends on you as an individual and how hard you're willing to work for what you want.
It doesn't matter if you grew up poor and didn't have access to an education.
Growing up poor doesn't mean that you don't have access to an education or that you have to remain poor. I mean, look at me. I grew up poor, but I'm still poor. Bad example. Moving on.
Or if you're disabled and need certain accommodations, you will be held to the same standard as people who grew up with money and aren't disabled.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Either you don't know any real conservatives or you're putting serious effort into being a moron. Most conservatives are not going to hold somebody with no arms and no legs to the same standard as me who is physically capable of working. We know that disabilities exist. We know that they happen for a variety of reasons, and we have no problem with giving assistance to those folks. But on that same token, it's not bad to push somebody with a disability to live life to the fullest and do some good for their lives despite their disability. I know disabled people that work regular 9-to-5 jobs like the rest of us, and I know people that are disabled that do need a little bit of assistance despite being able to work, and I know some that can't work at all. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean we're going to hold you to the same standard as everybody else. That is so stupid, and I don't know what conservatives you're talking to that actually gave you that impression. Or if you're just intentionally misrepresenting our arguments just to make yourself look like you have moral superiority over conservatives. And besides that, comparing disabilities to being poor and not having access to an education because of where you grew up, those aren't comparable scenarios. They're completely freaking different. A disability you usually have no control over. Where you grow up and what you do after you grow up and have the opportunity to get out of that situation, that is all up to you.
It's up to you.
The second person, a liberal, believes that in order to achieve equality, we need to meet people where they're at. And sometimes that means treating people differently based on the disadvantages they've had in life.
No we don't. You're basing this off the fact that these people exist, and that is not an accomplishment. I'm doing it. You're doing it. Hell, in your case, it's the opposite of an accomplishment, considering this is how you waste your time.
The second person understands that the United States has been built on a system of oppression and inequality.
Yeah, crap, here we go.
Here we go.
From European colonizers committing genocide against Native Americans, to the enslavement of black folks, to discrimination against Trump supporters on dating sites. That's the same thing, right?
Okay, first off, why are you bringing up slavery and what happened to the Native Americans?
It was 200 years ago.
What does that have to do with giving some soy boy government assistance today because he can't pull his big boy pants up and go get a real job like the rest of us?
Yeah.
Also, nobody has compared not being able to date because you're a Trump supporter to slavery or the Native American genocide. That is a straw man. That's not even a straw man. You are sucking this straw man's dick and fingering his butthole.
Due to the long history of inequality in America, the second person understands that additional efforts need to be made to make up for that inequality.
I have no idea where the fuck you came up with that argument and what cogs are turning in your head that make you think that that is actually a valid argument. The people who committed those atrocities aren't even alive, and the people who are victims of those atrocities aren't alive either. Mostly because they died in those atrocities. But I digress. How the fuck does that shit obligate us today to give money to people who don't want to go get a job and work to get out of their situation?
It's not and has never been a level playing field.
Life ain't fair, London Tipton. Get the hell over it.
Pretending that everyone has the same access to money, education, housing, job opportunities, political power, etc., only perpetuates these inequalities even further.
What?
Everybody has the same opportunity to get access to those things. You just gotta work for it instead of sitting behind a computer and complaining that the government's not giving it to you for free. And what the fuck does this have to do with Trump supporters and whether or not they're bad people? This is very far off topic.
Okay, so here's an example within an example. Insert obligatory Inception joke. Let's say a high school senior is applying for college. She grew up in poverty and even spent some nights lying in bed with an empty stomach. Her parents worked long, hard hours, more than most parents she knew who made substantially more money. But regardless, they were still poor, because thanks capitalism.
Wow, an SJW that doesn't realize how capitalism works. While filming a video with a camera, putting it on YouTube. And not to mention the fact that the video that came after this was sponsored by an app that provides birth control to places that don't have very good access to birth control.
Before we get into it, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video, Nerks, which is an online birth control app.
Capitalism is literally biting you on the ass, and you're too stupid to realize it.
You fucking idiot.
Now tell me, how is it capitalism's fault that these girls' parents are poor? They're not poor because of capitalism. They're poor because they suck with money and they make bad decisions. If they're working as long and as hard as you claim that they are, they shouldn't be poor. Maybe they're in a little bit of debt, but if they manage their money properly, they can actually provide their children with good food, a house, and everything that they need. They just need to learn how to budget money. Now, how do I know this? Because I am currently poor, because I suck with money and I made bad decisions. I'm working really hard to try to get better at that, but still, it's a learning process and it's going to take a little bit for me to get out of debt. I'm not blaming capitalism. I'm not blaming the government. I'm taking responsibility for my own actions, which is what you people need to learn how to do.
Despite the many setbacks that this high school senior experienced, she worked hard, harder than most of her friends, and she received good grades and excellent marks on her SATs. She was accepted to several colleges she was hoping to get into. However, when it came down to it, there was no way in hell that she'd ever be able to afford tuition.
There are plenty of programs that she could apply for that would get her into college and pay for the tuition. She can apply for scholarships. She can apply for federal aid. She can take a year off and work a job for the summer, saving up her money and being smarter with that money than her parents obviously were, and save up for tuition and pay it out of pocket. Where there's a will, there's a way.
If you were to ask the first person, who believes in treating everybody equally regardless of circumstances, they would say that no one deserves to receive special treatment. Other parents have to use their hard-earned money to pay for tuition, so why should this one particular student receive aid?
Okay, first off, you're saying this as if her parents have an obligation to pay her tuition. They honestly don't. Those that have parents pay their tuition, that is a privilege. That is not a right you have just because your parents are your parents. They don't have to pay your tuition. We have no problem with her getting the financial aid, she just has to pay it back like everybody else.
But if you were to ask the second person, who believes in meeting people where they're at, they would argue that impoverished students should be able to receive financial aid. She worked just as hard as the other students who got in, but faced significant disadvantages outside of her control. And her parents worked just as hard, if not harder, than all the other parents.
Again, we don't have a problem with her getting aid, because if she worked as hard as you claim that she did, she's earned it. So I don't know why you keep bringing this up. I have never met one conservative that is against somebody getting aid that they are going to pay back. Them goddamn kids and their fancy loans and shit, I had to work for what I got back in the day.
One person believes in equality of treatment, even though that often leads to vast inequalities.
That's because you're pushing for equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity, which are two completely freaking separate things. Equal opportunity allows everyone a fair starting point and allows each person to become what they want to be based on their personal drives and how hard they're willing to work to get to where they want to be.
And the other person believes in treating people differently based on their life circumstances in order to create a more equal playing field. So while both people would say that they believe in equality on a conceptual level, their ideas of equality are actually very, very different.
Okay, let me break this down briefly again because you obviously don't get it, and I'll try to use small words. We're not against financial aid, and you are either intentionally or unintentionally mistaking financial aid for a free ride. Please, find me one conservative that's against financial aid. Financial aid is a voluntary capitalist transaction between the student and either the government office or the bank, stating that if they give her this money to go through college, she will get a job with that education and she will pay them back the money that they invested into her getting an education. That's a transaction, because
thanks, capitalism.
What we are against is her getting a free ride just because she exists. Existing is not an accomplishment, as I said before. Now, if she wants to earn a free ride by being good at something and getting a scholarship from somebody who is voluntarily giving their money to that scholarship for her being good at sports or academics or math or what the fuck ever, that is their right. And that is, again,
thanks, capitalism.
Capitalism is what allows these people to give out scholarships to people that they think deserve it. So there are ways for her to get through college without the taxpayer funding her going to college just because she exists.
So where do we draw the line between politics and morality?
Right there.
Personally, I think it's pretty damn near impossible to untangle the two. Your politics are determined by your own moral compass and what you think it means to do the right thing.
Well, you're actually right on this. For example, you think the right thing is to meet people where they're at. I think the right thing is to make sure that there is equal opportunity for them to pursue their dreams as long as they have the drive to pursue those dreams. And that would allow for civil discourse on situations that we need to fix, but...
Your politics are a direct reflection of how you think the world should work and how people should be treated. But sometimes there's a disconnect, where a person theoretically believes in a moral concept, but their politics directly oppose that concept.
Whatever you're going to say next, I bet it's wrong.
Like a Christian who believes in helping the poor, but then votes against social systems that would end up helping the poor.
Well, what have you done to help? I work down at the soup kitchen, Brian. Never seen you down there. You want to help? Grab a ladle.
Just because you're Christian and believe in helping the poor doesn't mean you have to support a government program that helps the poor. You can help them all on your own with a charity that you know is going to put the money towards the poor. And plus, anybody, regardless of religion, if you believe in helping the poor, you should get out and be able to do it yourself instead of having to rely on the government to take other people's money and help the poor with that.
This disconnect can happen for many reasons, such as educational level, family and upbringing, Fox News.
Oh, like you have any room to talk about that, considering you later go on to try and back up a bunch of bullshit claims using MSNBC and CNN clips.
You are fake news.
And of course, the policies that you vote for and the politicians that you vote into power have direct material effects on other people's lives.
Yeah, well, the same thing can be said about voting in a liberal politician, so what the hell is the point?
This ranges from the local level, where your vote might determine whether or not your community gets better public transportation.
I don't know anyone who's against public transportation based on the party of which they assign to. Especially considering public transportation is, again, a result of
Capitalism.
Get some!
To the national level, where politicians you vote in might decide on whether or not gay marriage should be legalized for the whole country.
Hey Marina, I got good news for you. Gay marriage is legal in the United States of America across all 50 states. Woohoo! Progress!
And then there's the global level, which I don't want to think about right now.
Of course not. Because then you would have to acknowledge that there are problems outside of your little bubble that make your entire channel sound like a toddler throwing a tantrum.
I think right now the United States is in a place where politics are terrifying.
I would still love to hear how politics are so terrifying right now that doesn't have to do with the fact that there's a big orange meanie in the White House that I don't like.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama.
And the stakes are higher than they have been in a while.
Well, from your side of things, I guess you're not wrong, considering your side keeps losing.
For people who voted against Donald Trump, it has always been clear that he is incredibly bigoted and dangerous as a politician.
And it's been clear to us that voted for Trump that you have no proof of any of those accusations.
And very clearly wants to emulate other dictators, and that should scare you.
He does not emulate other dictators, you fuckhead. What is the proof of this?
This president is an autocrat.
Oh, you have an MSNBC clip.
You are fake news.
I guess that proves me wrong then.
He is not a small d Democrat. He doesn't believe in liberal democracy. And what we're seeing here every day are 5 behaviors. 1, he incites fervor in a base through constant lying.
I will never lie to you.
Okay, I read the article, and basically all it says is that Donald Trump lies, compares his lying to taking a piss, and was written by CNN. Also, it provides no examples of any of the lies, it just says that he lies and you're expected to believe it. I mean, I would ask what airheaded waste of cum actually believe this garbage, but...
2, he scapegoats minority populations, and he affixes blame for complex problems to them and them alone.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Wow, MSNBC taking a quote out of context in an attempt to prove a point we know is bullshit.
3, he alleges conspiracies that are hidden and nefarious and linked to those scapegoated populations.
Explained his popular vote loss by blaming 3 to 5 illegal votes. Again, zero evidence for this.
Counter-argument.
All right, so we have Chris Kobach here, the Kansas Secretary of State, who says he does have a proof of widespread voter fraud.
4, he spreads a sense of victimizations among those fervent supporters.
Counter-argument.
The murder trial involving an undocumented immigrant who was charged with shooting and killing Kate Steinle.
Illegal immigrant. He was an illegal immigrant who was deported 5 times before and kept coming back in.
Has been acquitted. The man who was charged has been acquitted, which was, to be quite honest with you, a rather shocking verdict.
And 5, he asserts the need to exert heretofore unprecedented power to protect his victim class from the conspiracies and the scapegoated populations.
Well, since you watch CNN, you probably didn't hear about this, but Donald Trump signed an executive order to stop the family separations. Also, I'd like to know how you want to handle the situation at the border, because your side always does the same shit. You complain about how we handle the situation at the border, but you provide absolutely no solutions to secure the border. You provide no solutions to deal with illegal immigration. You just cry that we're all doing it wrong, but you put nothing on the table. I mean, for fuck's sake, you had 8 years of holding the government to fix the problem. Why didn't Obama fix the illegal immigration problem? Not to mention the fact that Obama also deported more illegal immigrants than Trump has so far. And Obama and Clinton both had the same immigration problems that you're seeing in those clips happen when they were president. Did you speak up then? That's what I thought.
After Trump was elected, there were a lot of articles that came out about Trump supporters who were regretting their votes.
Well, let's also ignore the fact that there are Obama voters that regretted voting for Obama and in turn voted Trump in 2016.
And I also see a lot of people argue that their friends and family members who supported Trump and his discriminatory policies—
What policies?
—aren't bad people. They're good people deep down.
I see the scowl and the finger quotes, bitch.
And what I really want to get at is the idea of being a good person deep down.
And now we get to the part where she tries to use a whole bunch of words to skirt around outright saying that she thinks you're a bad person if you don't agree with her politics.
Do I believe that because people are human and they might be ignorant or manipulated by media or not have access to the same resources and information as other people, do I believe that that makes them inherently bad people?
Called it.
I get that not everyone just comes out of the womb being woke.
Just stop. Just stop it. Stop. No. Just stop it.
And I get that we're all in different places in our learning process and in our own personal growth. However, when you get down to it, your vote and the politicians that you support and bring into power matters.
No one disagrees with that, but you're trying to imply that to be a good person, we have to support the politicians that you support. Or just vote Democrat in general, because I doubt you'd ever be caught dead supporting a conservative.
Your politics directly affect marginalized people's lives. At the end of the day, the question of whether or not you can separate politics from morality is a luxury that most marginalized people don't have.
I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
What the fuck does that mean?
Does it matter to undocumented people
Illegal.
who are fleeing violence from their own countries and seeking refuge and being told that they are criminals?
If it matters to them so much, then why don't they come in the front door? If you go through the port of entry and tell them you're seeking asylum, they will immediately start the paperwork and you are automatically legal. Entering any other way does make you a criminal because you broke the law and entered the country illegally. Can't expect you to know what that means, considering you only care about the law when it fits your narrative, but I digress. And while we're at it, I ask again, what has your side done for immigration? All the left ever does is claim they support illegal immigrants, but they do fuck all to solve the immigration problems that we have, despite the fact that they've had the government for so freaking long.
Does it matter to undocumented children who are being ripped away from their families and put into cages, whether or not you're a good person deep down? Probably not.
Okay, Marina, let me break this down for you, and pay close attention because I am out of crayons. Those immigrants had the choice to come in legally, but they declined it. They came in illegally, and now they're suffering the consequences for it. Yes, our immigration system is fucked up and is in serious need of an overhaul, but you're trying to blame conservatives, and only conservatives, and the conservative voters, for the fact that it's all fucked up right now, and you're completely ignoring the fact that your side of the political spectrum has had the government for 8 years during the Obama era, and you did fuck all to solve the problem. So, why are you blaming conservatives for the problems of the immigration system and praising the liberals? And also, what does it matter to those same immigrants whether or not you're a good person? Or what your politics are? What does it matter to them that you made this video blaming Trump supporters for the predicament that they're in now that had nothing to do with Trump? Answer? It doesn't. So why don't you just admit that this video was a 10-minute long excuse to virtue signal and shit on conservatives while trying to maintain your facade of being a good person? Because that's all it is. It's a facade. You're not a good person. You're just a twat that wants to stay in her echo chamber and pretend that you have the moral high ground just because you virtue signal for all of these minorities. In reality, you're doing nothing to help them, and you block everybody that disagrees with you, which is additionally making sure that you don't do anything to actually help them. You're a hypocrite, you're not a good person, and until you can actually talk to people that you disagree with and quit acting like they're bad people because they disagree with you, you're always going to be a bad person. Anyway, that was the end of her video, which brings us to the end of this video. If you liked what I had to say, please like the video. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, tap the bell so you get notified when I upload or go live. If you want to share this video with friends and family to spread the gospel of Hey Dude, I encourage you to do so. And I will see y'all in the next video. Catch you later.